Good day, everybody. How's it going out there? Well, this week we got a bit of a juicy one. Well, it's not too ripe off the vine. It's been known for about 2 weeks now, but I'm the kind of person who likes to let all the tweets and the information dumps and all this stuff kind of sort itself out. And I've always kind of lived by a rule. If the story is still interesting 2 weeks out from when the original statements are made, I think that it's worth talking about and putting it on the record in a more nuanced manner. And this one is a big one. This is a pretty big story, and I think obviously it was one I was going to have to cover on this channel. Like, even when it first came out, I knew it was going to have to be one that was definitely going to be one of interest to this particular audience. It starts in the town of Tulsa, Oklahoma, a central United States state that's just north of Texas. You know, that big state that's above Mexico. In Oklahoma, it is deep in red state territory, and in America we call red state because it's the Republican Party has a very good stronghold in those particular regions. You know, there's pockets of liberalism here and there within their cities, but usually, most or more often than not, Republicans usually have power out there. And so, like, furry conventions are kind of weird in that way, in that, like, we typically are, you know, seen as being more progressive than anything. We have people who, you know, there is the GLBT friendliness in this community long before we ever, you know, were considered mainstream or anything like that. You know, we were pro-gay marriage. Most of furries were pro-gay marriage long before even politicians were talking about it, and finally it being enacted in the mid-2010s. That being said, as politics continue to evolve, and as parties continue to evolve, and as ideals continue to evolve and change, and parties start to shift their ideals to sort of mesh with the modern audience, we are finding that, you know, a furry fandom is starting to become a little bit more divided than it used to be. And because of that, some of the old guard has been basically ousted from positions of power when things are found out about their political ideals and beliefs about their fellow Americans. And thus brings us to our story in Tulsa. And just as though I've covered some of that kind of stuff before with To the Ranting Griffin being removed as a performer at Anthrocon all the way back in the day. So if you want to watch that, I'll see if I can put a link in the cards above for you to peruse and enjoy. But here in Tulsa, and speaking of To the Ranting Griffin, it's been announced that he is going to be the guest of honor at a brand new convention in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And for the first time in furry history, which is probably the biggest and most interesting thing about this situation, is that the convention itself is going to be held in the same exact hotel as another furry convention that also exists at the same time. Let me tell you that again. Two furry conventions, one hotel. Which, if this new convention does actually go forward, would be the first time that has ever happened, and would obviously blow out of the water any proximity records that us furries have had before, because this will be the first time we've ever had two conventions in the same hotel. But why would there be two conventions in the same hotel, you ask? Well, I wrote an article, so if you don't like to listen to me ramble, and it's in the description below, we did an article for Flayra.com. I did that. I mainly wrote this. Turbulence in Tulsa as ousted tails and tornadoes. President starts new convention in same hotel. Tongue Twister Tussles, written by Tantru. T. The letter T. Today is brought to you by the letter T. Anyway, Sesame Street aside. So the story goes over, basically it breaks it down into sort of the background behind the whole situation, and that Tales and Tornadoes was the one that was originally in the convention in that particular hotel space first, and now a new one has been announced called Free for All. Side thing, America's Anthro Convention, right? So there's a sort of air of patriotism and nationalism within the new furry convention, whereas the previous one of Tales and Tornadoes is more weather and nature based, I guess, and doesn't really spout nationalism or anything like that, and is just a general furry convention. But the story behind it is that the Tales and Tornadoes, one of its founding members is known as Peace Wolf. And Peace Wolf is a white wolf fursona, and she identifies as a sort of Christian individual, right? She is a kind of Christian fundamentalist furry, right? Straight Christian fundamentalist, and also and she also is right wing, based on some of the tweets that she liked and did that. And it covers the article itself covers the issues and the and the kind of issues that surround some of her tweets, particularly during some of the most vibrant and riotous points in Donald Trump's final year as president. It shows how she liked a tweet that basically appeared to call for more violence against the protesters. And obviously, a lot of furries who, showed support towards, Black Americans seeking justice against injustices, such as what happened to George Floyd in the Midwest, furries sort of took that as a problematic stance, and basically Peace Wolf was ousted from her position. Well, I don't know the full details about how she was ousted from her position, because I honestly, there was a lot going on at the time, so spare me, I apologize, I don't have the full details. But whether it was voluntary, she was ousted through resignation, or that she was let go, it's clear here by this action of all of a sudden a new convention spawning up under an organization that she runs. It is crystal clear that basically she was not fond of being ousted, that she really did want to maintain a leadership role within that particular community. But because she was ousted, she had to basically make her own convention. And she did it through her own organization, nonprofit organization, which she created, which is called OWU. Now, what OWU stands for, according to their About page, is Anthro West Open Organization, or Anthro Western Open Organization. So if you look at the logo up here, look at the bar up here, you can see it's one thing, and if you look at the badge over here, it's another thing. Clearly, they named the organization and then came up with the acronym, right? No. You can sometimes tell when someone is like, we should call our organization OWU. What does OWU stand for? Well, we're Anthros. Cool, we got the A. Western. Cool. All right. What's the first O? Well, the last O is going to be organization. What should we do with that third O? God. Open. We're open people, right? We love open things. We're tolerant, TM. Yeah, there it is. Anthro West Open Organization. Wait, I thought we called it Western. Well, Western, who cares? We're OWU now. OWU! The interesting thing, though, is that organizations that usually are the backing of conventions, usually the name of those is not that important, because people usually don't know things like that. Like, for instance, Anthrocon and some of the Eastern conventions have their own background organizations, right? They have their own sort of Anthro Northeast. I don't see. I off the top of my head, I know more about this kind of background stuff than most furries do. But I will be honest in that right now, thinking off the top of my head, I don't know what the name of the organization that is the backing of Anthrocon is. I don't. Not off the top of my head. So it's not really supposed to be a big deal. It's not really supposed to be something you advertise. But the interesting thing is that they chose an onomatopoeia, and I go over this in the article. They chose an onomatopoeia that that basically is popular even outside of the furry fandom. So like if somebody Googles "oh woo," they're not going to find their Twitter feed. They're not going to find anything. They're going to find like that sort of anime cat girl going "oh woo." You know, so it's not a good marketing decision if they wanted to bring attention to themselves. Also, that free for all is also a common pun. Apparently, if you Google free for all, which is the name of their convention, the first thing you get is a board game for We Bear Bears. So basically, they've obscured themselves doubly, right, in the marketing sense. They have picked a name that is not unique in either their organization or in their convention. So people looking for that convention or for their organization are going to run into a wall on the searching algorithms. And you can also tell that they didn't really think about their organization name because it's kind of silly. It's like it's open. It's like, and of course, you know, their propaganda is like, we welcome furries of all stripes and stings. We don't care about the politics and the drama and things like that. So the interesting thing here is the last two sentences, right? Our mission is to build a community and host fundraising events that are welcoming and enjoyable to all, regardless of background. All species are welcome, drama llamas excluded. I mean, that's cute. That's cute. They have humor. But in all seriousness, who dictates what a drama llama is? Do you guys have board meetings about who is considered a drama llama? Can you define a drama llama? Because this is the thing about governance and politics. This is why it's like you can never escape that nasty, nasty crap of politics. Even if you say, well, it's open to all and all that stuff, you cannot escape it because human interaction and who you're welcoming to and who you put up walls for and all those things, they are decisions that people in organizations make. They decide who's part of your club and who's not. They decide if you're a drama llama to kick you out, right? That happens in regular fandom, that happens in Owu, it happens everywhere. So to say that we're different and yet you're not, it's like, then what's the difference between you guys? Just be open about it. We're Republicans who are pissed off that furries are not open to Trumpism. Great! Say it out loud, because don't dog whistle, because like you're trying to lure in people who are like that. It's like, don't, just be who you are. People will respect you more for it, instead of like trying to play this like, I want to have the best of both worlds. It's like both worlds are no longer available to everybody. Like, we're entering that stage. Like, it's just, that's just how it is. And the thing is, like, if you've ever read Animal Farm, Animal Farm is almost required reading for furries, especially nowadays. You know, they animals are like, we're gonna take over the farm, and then like we're gonna make our own farm, and every animal's gonna be treated fairly and equally, and then like they start putting rules on the board, and it's like 4 legs good, 2 legs bad. And then like the chickens are like, well, what about those chickens? And they're like, oh well, you know, it's a slogan. Don't read too much into it. And it's like all animals are equal. And then that later becomes, but some animals are more equal than others. You know, as the pigs and swine start to take over and start to become the power brokers of the farm. And so like, it's always interesting to see how all organizations tend to start off with an ideal and then realizing that that ideal cannot stand for everyone, and so they start to pair off and start to, mitigate and things like that. And the reality is that all organizations have this issue throughout history. That's why I'm not surprised that it's happening in the furry fandom right now, because all organizations do it. Christianity used to be synonymous with Catholic, right? If you were a Christian, you were probably a Catholic. And then the Protestant Reformation happened, and then if you were a Christian, you were either a Catholic or a Protestant, right? And then Protestantism, because Protestantism in and of itself is a more liberal form of Christianity, which is like that people should be responsible for reading the Bible and interpreting it for themselves, and that the Bible should be available for everyone to read. And that's what the founder Martin Luther was in the case. Then it started to branch off, and then you had Lutheranism and Methodism and Baptists, right, and Mormons. And so like all of these different branches started to break off because there were fundamental disagreements about what parts of the Bible you should focus on and which are the important ones. Then you have the Amish, who probably take that one thing about that any technology made by a sinner is basically is a technology of sin. There's like one Romans passage that has something along those lines, and like Amish, I think, are the ones that take that line and go, we're running with that one, right? No technology. Like, technology is the devil, right? So, you get people who have disagreements, and then those disagreements create different groups with different cultural identities. To think that furry fandom thought it was going to be immune from that is, in my mind, one of our greatest follies. And so, that folly has led us to this point, which is why this is such an interesting news story, because this is the result. We have one furry fandom. We have a bunch of furries over the course of the years that we've had access to social media, and our words are out there, and people will interpret our words and say that this person's on this side of us or this person's on that side. We have an issue where we have a definitive moment where we say, do we treat minorities and people who are different from us as human beings who are deserving of justice and respect? Or do we allow the government to run roughshod and allow them to make the rules and allow them to give people authority to do harm to others, right? And allow them to have all the powers invested in them? Should we allow ourselves to be all powerful, or should we have some humility, right? Should our nation be one of strength or one of humbleness? And that sort of division has basically enacted in the fandom, right? So I obviously have a side on this, and obviously I do believe that our system should be, iterated to the better. And I have a feeling that it's going to go that way irregardless of, the objections of some people in Trumpism. And I think that a lot of people will say, well, you didn't give these people a chance. The issue here is that the folks who are now, and I call them persona non gratas, who are joining Peace Wolf in this convention, they were given multiple shots. They were given opportunities to walk back. I think 2 had a lot more opportunity to walk back than Peace Wolf did. Because I think that the bridge of being able to, people's tolerance for this kind of stuff is lowering and lowering and lowering on social media as, the sort of cultural norms sort of start to edge themselves out. When people, go down that road, there's less tolerance of it, right? Than there used to be back when we first had the internet and those things were occurring. And the reason I say that is because, I as I said before on this channel, I was a To the Ranting Griffin fan back in my college days, and I was only that for about a few years before I realized that he was a little more narcissistic and a little his rants were a little closer to his primary beliefs than his caricature was sort of showing. I thought he was like a caricature, and it was a fun thing to listen to because he was charismatic. But at the end of the day, like, he started making live journals saying, no joke, this guy's a hero of mine. And as I said, I think I've said on this channel once before, when he made that live journal saying, no joke, this guy who took his plane that was about to be repossessed by the IRS, took it and flew it into the IRS building and killed a man in rebellion against, him not paying his taxes. Then I noticed that, 2 was not a person of looking out for people. He was a person who was looking out for the powerful and looking to get away from the system and trying to break the system that we're all a part of, right? That defying the community is the primary thing. To be a tiger, be a hero by killing a man, right? Over a plane, which is by far a luxury item. You don't need a personal plane, right? It's like, and if you're not paying your taxes, I wonder how you were able to afford a personal plane. I could throw a link to in the description to that particular article. But there were multiple things other than just that one thing. There was him using Kage to try to grift the fandom into getting him first class tickets to Eurofrints during the height of the Great Recession. That was a thing that happened. I can't find the link to that anymore because I think someone might have deleted it. But that was a big thing. And so, like, you start to see, the cracks and crevices, and you start to analyze it. And you tell them you're going down the wrong path. And they don't listen, and they continue going down the wrong path, and then the thing happens. Honestly, I think To the Ranting Griffin's career ender was gay marriage being approved as the law of the land. As ironic as that might sound, it's like, how did that happen? So back in the mid-2010s, people who were gay or lesbians could become, basically get wed in matrimony, which was something that couldn't happen in the country before. And before that, furries were all for gay marriage. There was so much gay marriage propaganda out there in the furry space of, furries wanting to be wed to their loved ones. They were advocates for it. There was a united idea of gay marriage in our country. And the thing is that after it was successful, right, the next fight, like the next thing that people wanted to do in order to bring social tolerance towards people who were different, right, was transgenderism. And allowing transgenderism folks to be treated with respect, to be treated with dignity, to allow them to receive the treatments that they need in order to transition, in order to identify how they wish to, in order to use the bathrooms that they wish to. That fight was the next fight, right? And some gay folks decided, this is my stop. I'm getting off. Bye! And To, of course, was one of them. And I think, and that is kind of what caused, I think, this sort of little divide in the fandom, is that there were folks who were, now that gay marriage was a thing, decided this is enough, we're getting off the bus here. And there are trans furries, who use their personas as means to, find their identity and express their identity and try to find, who they are. And they stayed, right? And so this is where the divide sort of falls at this point. And people like Peace Wolf and people like, and interestingly, as secular as To the Ranting Griffin is, and as religious as Peace Wolf is, they came together, right, on this concept of there are two genders, man and woman. Because God says it or science says it. And in my opinion, neither of them say it. But, and actually in my readingness, neither religious text nor science takes a negative stance towards gender identity or gender or transgender or transsexuality. But obviously those different interpretations of the same literature, of literature that we are familiar with, is what leads to, conflict, right? So, in essence, that long rambling thing aside, but I think it gives you more context as to why these kind of things occur, is the reason that this is happening. So, I go into the article on why I think that this is mostly revenge-based, that the free-for-all is mostly a revenge-based creation. Number one, it's held in the same exact hotel as somebody else's convention. So the fact that they didn't move to a different city to make it closer to other furries shows that I live here, I'm going to make it work here, right? And dang, heck with splitting the audience, right? The other factor is that there was another individual, and I can't unfortunately remember their name at this point. I think their name is Liam. I apologize, I'm horrible with names, but they used to be a president of the Anthropomorphic Writers Club, the Furry Writers Guild, and they did an article for a different nerd site, and I linked to it in that article that I made, and they talk about how Peace Wolf attempted, according to that anonymous source that they had, attempted to basically make an agreement with the hotel that they were going to have exclusive rights to having a furry convention there. In other words, they were going to try to oust Tails and Tornadoes from that position. Also, the third thing that shows that this is revenge and trying to basically take down Tails and Tornadoes for ousting her is that when the announcement was made for Free for All, Tails and Tornadoes was a week away from actually running its return convention for the first time since COVID-19. And thankfully, the vice president of Tails and Tornadoes was kind enough and generous enough, and we thank him for it, to write an article for us, which we are editing at this point, to go over their second year and their first year since COVID-19. So I look forward to posting that, and I thank them for just posting onto Flera for their premiere year, because they did that too. The folks down there, I think, it's the first time a convention really has done that and has used Flera as a means of getting a newsletter out there, and I hope that someday Flera will be worth it to have more of those kind of articles, because that would be awesome and wonderful. That way we can have a record of it, and I would love to see that more. So thank you, Q, for that. And so we're gonna have that. And by the way, their attendance actually went up. They had 530 in 2019, and I think they had 560 this year. So it didn't go up by a lot, but it went up. So obviously, I'm very much underplaying the fervor and controversy that this action has sort of caused to a lot of furries on social media. A lot of furries are very angry about the actions of those in free for all, and the staff and the people and their things. If you want to have more of a little bit of a dive into that aspect of things, I would suggest Ragehound's channel, and I'll link up here to her channel. She has some videos that were done recently, and I might link the videos themselves in the description below, just because as time goes on, those videos are going to move down. But she did a bunch of videos on free-for-all's rules and regulations, how they've been handling the social media aspects, and also private chat rooms of supposed people who would be attending a convention like this. Know that these individuals that will be going to Free for All are very much of the alt-right persuasion. So we call them, folks call them neo-Nazis and things like that, or Trumpists, authoritarianism, right? And so, that's why a lot of furries have taken a stand against this particular convention. As opposed to Tails and Tornadoes, which is a more traditional convention. So, that being said, we'll see what happens. In the article, and I'll leave this as my final thing, my suggestion to furries who are in a fervor over this is that while, some furries are trying to get the convention itself canceled or shut down, and doing so in direct manners by contacting the hotel, I do note that you might want to make sure that when you contact the hotel, you're telling them which one, because there are 2 conventions in there now. So you need to be clear which one you want canceled if you're going to do that. As a reporter, as somebody who's a nonfiction basically person who collects events, I can't advocate nor stop individuals from doing what they wish to do, right? I can give people advice, both good folk and bad folk. I can give advice, but I'm not gonna go yeah, you should do that or you shouldn't do that. I'm going to say, if you are, so the advice I'm giving is, if you are going to try to contact the hotel about the problematic individuals who would be running that particular convention, and with the evidence and things like that, you should be sure that you make it clear that you're talking about free for all as opposed to tails and tornadoes, right? But also, my personal thing is I always look at situations like this and how can we take this lemon and make it into lemonade? And how can we take this situation and change that negativity and transfer it into positivity? And my take has been always, the best way to stick it to the doubters and the haters and people who are horrible is to show great success, right? That is the way to get back at those folk, right? That's the way to get back at those people who besmirch you and harm you for who you are, is to be more successful than they are. You don't have to flaunt it, but you can. And you don't do it just to spite them. You can do it. You can do it for you, and that spite is just a nice side bonus, right? You don't create a convention for revenge. You let a convention thrive to spite the vengeance-ridden person, right? So, Peace Wolf is over here throwing her money into trying to create a new convention and cost and taking all these expenditures. And interestingly enough, and this is my take, if she starts running that convention for multiple years, it's going to be a financial drain on them for the first few years until they can reach a point of profitability, which would usually happen at a convention after a few years, after people are comfortable and enough people show up. The problem is that the winds, because of their problematic statements in the past and their reputation, the winds are kind of against them right now. So it's really going to be a financial strain and burden, and it might not take off like other conventions, which is why it's important that Tails and Tornadoes really understands and lets the hotel understand that they are a different convention, and that anything that Free for All does that is harmful to the hotel, and they have to say, don't let that stick to us, because the person who's leading that convention probably has vengeance in her heart. And if she has vengeance in her heart, then it's going to be she's going to try to make you think that furries are evil. She may try to harm your hotel through her guests. And that harm that she's trying to cause will make you think that we're the baddies, right? And you have to be aware that, what she does is probably trying to harm us as well. So let her be responsible for her own convention, and let us be responsible for ours. But furries, if you have an opportunity here. If you make Tails and Tornadoes a staple convention for your yearly convention needs, and you treat the staff like kings. You tip them well. You treat them like they are your guests, and you're welcoming them to this wonderful, weird world of furry. And they look forward to your presence every year. They want to see smiles. They love the interaction. They know you're approachable. You're weird. You're eccentric, but they enjoy your company. You bring joy and laughter to them. And then they see this other convention over here that's treating their staff like crap, not tipping them at all, being selfish and narcissistic. And then they look at them and they go, huh. Like, why are these furries so much better than these furries? And furries will love it too, because if they treat the staff like kings, if they treat them like wonderful people, then all of a sudden the staff are going to treat them like wonderful people. And then their furries who go to Tails and Tornadoes will be even happier. And then it will grow and they say, oh, you should go to this convention. The hotel freaking loves us, man. It is one of the best conventions I've ever seen. It's like it's almost pales, it almost gets up to freaking Pittsburgh with how crazy it is, like the locals are for us. You can do it, furries. Come on. You want to make Tails and Tornadoes like almost like Anthrocon. You could do it. It was you that did it the whole time. It wasn't just some guy in a lab coat. You did that. You made Pittsburgh love you. You can make Tulsa love you too when you go to Tails and Tornadoes. Okay? And as Tails and Tornadoes grows and grows and grows into one of the staple conventions, I want to see it in the top 8. I want to see it on that chart that I do on this channel. You guys think you could do that? You think you could do that? You think you can get it into that top 8? I think you could. It's 500 right now. It just has to go up a few thousand more. I think you could do it. I think you could do it. I don't know how big the convention space is, but we could try to fill it up as much as possible. And meanwhile, over here in Free For All, well, the staff is free to do whatever it wants. It has its freedom that it pined so much for. But there's no guests, and the staff doesn't like them as much, and they don't know why. Maybe because they didn't realize that the convention wasn't about them as the leaders. They didn't realize it was not about them wanting to have their little party on stage and everyone else is just riffraff. That the convention was actually supposed to be about the prosperity of the attendees and the hotel. That it wasn't all about them. It wasn't some party that they were just inviting some random people to pay $50 a ticket. That they were supposed to be ensuring that people would enjoy the vacation and the stay that they had there. And that they didn't see the joy in other people. They didn't see to it that there was joy in other people. They just wanted a stage. And as that happens and as that continues, Free For All will probably stagnate. It probably won't succeed. If anything, it might cap off and it might get 200 people the first year. 100 people, maybe. It won't grow as fast. Because people will have spent all their joy and time. The locals will all love frickin' Tails and Tornadoes. They're not going to go to the other one. The other one's too weird. It's too wonky. The staff doesn't have their heart in the right place. The staff made the convention based on revenge and not about the opportunity to help the furry community grow, to help it prosper, to help it get people to buy fursuits and furry art and comics and books. The things that the furry fandom was all about to begin with. Wasn't about people on a stage. It wasn't about people getting up there and making themselves kings and making themselves feel like gods that are powerful leaders or executives. It was about the people in the dealer's den trying to make a buck, trying to share their joy of their fandom with other people, to share their art and their joy and their happiness. And Tails and Tornadoes has the opportunity to distinguish itself from that false concept that it's all about leadership. It's all about looking for some hero to save the fandom. It's all about trying to find someone to save the fandom from conflict, about saving the fandom from that. It was never about that. It's never about saving anybody from anything. It's about letting people dress up in funny animal costumes over the course of a weekend to have a good time, to watch as the fandom and community prospered, to watch people enjoy themselves, sometimes in platonic manners and sometimes in very raunchy manners, but enjoyment nonetheless. As long as you're being safe about it. Please be safe about it. I don't want to hear it's like, I didn't get the tests done. It's like, freaking, you're fine with the COVID vaccine. Come on, we still have to worry about STIs, guys. You have the opportunity, fandom, to do that. And I want you to do it so bad. As I said, I'm supposed to be neutral here, but I would really, really love to see that. I would really love to see that you guys put your weight behind Tails and Tornadoes in order to show the leadership of Free for All what they gave up by seeking revenge and allowing the anger and frustrations of social media to enter their hearts and make them wrathful people. Show them what they missed out on. Show them the joy they missed out on. While they get on the boat and fight each other for stage time. And speaking of time, I've been doing this a long time. Thank you very much for watching. Kick that like, kick the subscribe button, kick a comment in the comment section. Oh God, there's going to be a lot of comments in the comments section. Oh boy. Odin Wolf did a video on this when it first came out a few weeks ago. He took that video down because there were so many comments in the comment section. I suspect that that's going to happen here too. So be patient with angry and frustrated people. And if you feel angry and frustrated at those people who are saying disparaging things in the comment section, use that anger, and I'm going to take the glasses off because I can't get them aligned for the life of me. Use that anger and buy a ticket to Tails and Tornadoes 2022. And have a good time. Enjoy yourself. Live free, for you worked for that freedom. Live free because you used your agency to create something good. And didn't use your freedom to complain about the fact that your agency has consequences. Have a good one, guys.